I think people have questions now.
Okay.
So if you want to do that piece. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn it over. David, do you want to start your question?
Yeah,
Yes,
fine.
okay. I mean, you can see him on the other one, but
Hi.
Hi. So as someone with ADHD, I find that kind of staying present is okay, in my mind, but my body often, like today, I had a really hard time staying still and keeping myself composed in that way. I'm wondering if you have any suggestions or thoughts on that.
Hmm. Thank you for that, because you're not alone. And even if we don't suffer ADHD, sometimes we feel like we do. So often when we do intro to mindfulness or more advanced practices, we'll play with different way to practice. One of them is the walking meditation. So you would, instead of kind of being sitting still and feeling the discomfort of it, which it can be appropriate and useful at times. But the two things is to practice walking with presence and mindfulness, where you don't walk necessarily to go somewhere, but you walk like almost in a safe place where you don't have to worry where you're walking, and you walk back and forth with presence. Okay? And that's often a way to tune your body and the coordination, and then you can kind of go into this mindful presence. And sometimes you can then go and sit for a little while, and you could alternate. The other thing that I may suggest is for people who are active, it's often useful to do a physical activity before you're going to sit. Let's say you're going to have a sitting period. So to have a brisk walk or move around and move your body, kind of attending to it a little bit. And then that may facilitate the sitting period. The other thing I would say, short period, and you increase it. And you don't fight with yourself. You just welcome that busyness of the mind, if you can, with more and more kindness. And often what we don't resist, don't persist as much, but it's a predicament. And that predicament may not ever change. It may be there all the time. And so you get to find your ways. Right? Does that answer a little bit your question?
That answers it in more detail than I was expecting or hoping, and that's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
can I follow up?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What about those the beads that people use when they meditate, to just counting or just moving your hands with something extremely subtle, but just at least moving energy a little bit? Is that
I think it's really, really beautiful. I mean, in all the meditation practices, there are also, I could have say that to you as well. Like when we have a very active mind, we can kind of use a bit of a mantra to help us out. And this can be a mantra, what you're talking about. They used to have those beads, 108, to focus the mind a little bit. So in the practices, when we do the core, basically the anchor, whether it's the breath, or it could be a mantra, or it could be something else, it's because we know that our brain is scattered. It goes in all directions. And so a gentle way is to help us basically bring a little bit of attention together by using a practice, whether it's a breath, whether it's counting the beats, whether it's naming what's coming up, like restlessness or tiredness, or it could be when you breathe in, you may say peace and relax, and peace and relax. So whatever, I really like your questions because it's allowing you to explore what works for you. Okay. And that's beautiful. Am I answering your question, Jen? Yeah.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. Okay, Adrienne has a
I
question.
have another follow-up question from David's question.
Can you hear her?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If So if your body does feel restless, do you think it could also be a good practice? Maybe if like walking meditation is unavailable or something late at night or whatever, to just like sit and be mindful of the discomfort of your body and to just like send loving kindness to like that urge and that like frustration almost that you feel in your body when you want to move it, or is that just torturing yourself?
That's a very good question. And one I struggled with as well, especially when you do intense retreats and you meditate 5 or 6 times a day. And then your body's starting to give you signals, and it's your back and it's your shoulders. And so it's a teaching for life. So I would respond that it's both. Sometimes it is very skillful to watch what's going on. And when you feel like scratching, you don't scratch simply because you're not moving to get rid of the uncomfortable sensation. It's part of the teaching, really, because what we learn in my meditation will apply to life. There will be uncomfortable moments. How are we reacting to those? So it can be skillful to pay attention and to recognize, oh, discomfort is here, and movement, moving away from it, and the mind, how the mind engage. And it's it can be very skillful. Now, all that to be said, not all able-bodied meditate, or sometimes we have real pain. So are we going to hang on to the pain because we should move? I don't think it's necessarily wise. So sometimes the kind thing to do is to adjust your body and to see what's skillful. Like for a while, I could not meditate sitting. I had to meditate lying down because my neck had been injured and I had some form of infection coming out of Africa that was, made me very sick. And I just had to meditate lying down and just putting my knees up so I wouldn't fall asleep. And it worked. Okay. So you're trying it with kindness, but you're wise by saying sometimes it is an opportunity to wait a little bit and see how it goes and see how you respond to it. And then sending metta and gentleness and see how it goes. So you bring the scratch or the pain to a bigger context, like the salt, bring to awareness. The other thing for also ADHD, and we didn't talk about it, but active mind, there are meditation. Rick Hansen has a lot of videos on YouTube, and he often proposed some sitting meditation or standing meditation where you would move your arms. Like it's not really Qigong, but it's a practice of simply bringing a movement, a bit like Jad was saying with the beans, but it's a physical way, and it's very slow, and then you follow it, and it's amazing how it helps with the settling. And you can kind of feel the energy. So you can experiment. Is this helpful, Andrina?
Very.
Okay.
Sometimes I feel like trying to not scratch the itch or move the twitch or whatever ends up becoming the entire focus of my mindfulness practice, because it becomes like, so it's irritability and I'm trying to control it so much to try not to scratch or whatever, not move, that it almost feels like if I release it just quickly and then I can go back to a still state. It like, I'm talking mostly in like silent retreats where there'd be like prolonged periods, but the obsession of trying not to then becomes, and then trying to be gentle with myself becomes quite challenging,
Oh,
But you know what, Jan? This is the practice. This is the practice. You're mindful because life will scratch you. And
Yeah.
sometimes we cannot move. And I hear what you're saying, but it's a beautiful practice that you're dealing with annoyances that becomes obsessive.
yeah.
And that is life. Whether we're worried and everything. So your practice is then showing you exactly teaching you how to be still with annoyances, with aggravation. And so that becomes like he can kind of name it. Obsession is here. Oh, what does it feel like? And so I would do a bit of inquiry and investigation. And then if it feels appropriate, scratch. But you've looked into it and you have used your practice. Okay?
Yeah, because eventually it becomes permission. And
That's
if
right.
it feels nice too, like that feels.
Yes, because then you're mindful. You see, you scratch mindfully.
Yeah, there we go.
That's different. It's like when we eat mindfully. It's different. You know, last night, I was watering my plants and I was just mindful. I was not just watering my plant, I was loving my plants. And it's so much different. So scratch mindfully and explore a little before. Me, I miss those questions. That's what I like the most in about presenting. It's this interaction and things we don't say when you just present, you know, you don't think of saying so. Anything else? I'm mindful of the time too, but if there's other questions.
My question
Thank you.
is kind of about using this with clients, because I'm thinking about how this can be applied to people that we work with.
Yes.
I find when we recommend this, or like, you know, sometimes we say, oh, this would be something, mindfulness is a good thing to incorporate. There's usually a lot of resistance or, oh, I tried that and I can't, which of course, you know, we've all been there. Is there something that you would recommend, like that we can say, or like what's a good way to sort of break through some of that resistance, or something that can be more encouraging to maybe try to get that person to try again, even though they have such sort of like a not, you know, pleasant experience with it in the past?
Mhm. That's a wonderful question, and I face that often. You know what? I I was a little sneaky with people who have a hard time, who'd say, "Oh, I've tried and it doesn't work," or they don't seem too inclined. So I would find an opportunity in session to have them experience directly what it is. So basically asking them, you know, when something is upsetting, to stop. Let's take a moment. Let's pause. Okay, well, let's take a breath into it. And so, what's here for you right now? Oh, this is happening, and you know, da, 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 and I'm angry, or I have to deal with that. Yes, okay. So I'm going to invite you just for a moment. Just close your eyes. Okay, and what seems to be the most difficult in that situation right now that you're describing for you? Okay. I'm worrying, you know, I'm afraid. That's I fear. Okay. Where do you feel that in your body in this moment? Okay. Where do you feel it? And then you kind of help them. And then if it feels okay, just tune in with it. Just close your eyes and everything. And then I would kind of move through that. And then say, okay, can you surround that feeling, that fear with your awareness, with your presence? And sometimes there's a deeper emotion that may come in. And so kind of let them practice. And then I say, well, this is mindfulness.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they kind of have a taste. Oh, so you've been doing it. So they have kind of